Okay, we're on episode 4, and I'm super excited for today because we have a lady chef.
My name is Jill Forrett Lane, and I've been in Fort Myers area since about 87, quite a while. And I started with a catering business, very small, very off the books, off the records, with my mother. And about 25 years ago. So we did places like this. We did a lot of private catering, word of mouth, and it got pretty busy for a while to the point where I was like, okay, do I need to look into a storefront and everything that goes along with that, or do I need to figure out what's next?
Now, what area was that?
In this area, Fort Myers,
Okay,
Bonita.
so always in this area. Okay, I didn't know if you're from out of town.
No, I'm from Illinois originally, but we've been down here since 87. I haven't gone anywhere.
Okay.
So stuck here. Complacency.
With your career, at like what age did you realize you were going to be a chef or you wanted to be a chef?
Oh, I think I'm still making that decision.
Still not decided. Okay.
It just kind of happened to me. I always enjoyed cooking, and here's what happened. When I was pregnant with my son Zachary, normal people nest and they clean. I cooked everything you could imagine. If you can think of it, I baked it, cooked it, all of that. And I ended up bringing it into Robin Stuckey, back when Robin Stuckey was actually Robin Stuckey.
Okay.
And to the people in my mother worked there. So I would just bring them food all the time just to get it out of my kitchen, but I had to bake it. It was just there. I had to do it. And I ended up catering through them. I started doing their design events. I started doing their Christmas parties. People hired me personally. I started doing lunches for them. And that's kind of how it kicked off. It was like, then people started paying me to do this that I love to do. So,
right. But am I hearing that you're like self-taught, or did you actually go to culinary school?
I did not go to culinary school. I am self-taught. My mother taught me everything I know. She is amazing to this day. Still makes me look like the Muppet Chef.
Was she someone who went to any kind of culinary?
No.
So it's all just kind of.
I'm just a girl who likes to cook.
All right.
And I happen to do okay at it.
Did you ever have the thoughts that I wish I went to culinary school,
all the
or
time.
I wanted to go?
All the time. I don't know that I ever will, but my education certainly could always advance. There's so much I don't know that I don't know.
There's no chef that knows everything.
Right.
It's infinite. You can never know everything.
And I don't know if I really don't come to this game with any ego. I just enjoy what I do.
That's the best way.
I think so. Everybody's worked with people who are just almost unbearable, and whether it's a chef or a accountant or whatever you're doing, but there's always that aspect in any field. But I just always have enjoyed it, and I love it, and it's just good therapy. Yeah. If you see me baking bread, I've had a stressful week.
Okay.
So it's just, Now,
let me ask you this, like with working with you, like let's say I was an understudy of yours, do you consider yourself a very kind of strict controlling chef, or are you very kind of easygoing? You kind of, hey, if you burn everything, no big deal. How would you say your style is?
I go both ways. It depends on, I guess, I think my reaction to certain situations like that depend on the reasons that somebody's burning my food. I don't always take it very well.
Yeah.
But I'm also into training, and I've made all those mistakes. So, getting mad and yelling and screaming, I'm never ever going to be a Gordon Ramsay person, but I do have expectations and standards, and you kind of follow my lead. This is how I plate, and then we'll move forward from there.
Yeah.
I've had people burn my food, and there's nothing you can do about it except take credit for it.
But one of the best things about what I do is I do it all myself.
Right.
So there's nobody that's going to burn anything.
Yeah, hopefully.
Because, the thing is, like, when I'm in these homes, I'm super locked in. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, every detail, I got to make sure I'm on top of it. I don't think about yesterday's party or the next day's. It's all about that moment and this time.
And that's not easy to do.
I know. That is something you have to develop.
I learned a long time ago when we were catering that you've got all these jobs just bouncing around, bubbling around in your head.
Yeah, you got to turn it off.
You have to tunnel vision,
right,
and just see only today, and then work on tomorrow. Otherwise, my stress level just would go through the roof, and you'd end up in a corner somewhere.
Right. But with your working of what you were doing, tell me about your roles of. You went from catering to where?
To Finemark. Well,
kind of go into that.
When I left the catering business, we kind of dissolved that, and I ended up it was more important to me at that point. My kids were very young. I've got 2 kids. They're about 18 months apart. They're grown now. But it was important to me at that point to know where I was going to be when I was going to be there. Insurance, everything that goes along with a real job. Right. I ended up in the school system for a lot of years, until about 2015. I finally left the school system. And I've always kind of had one foot in the Finemark door. Starting with one of the chefs who was working there. I worked with her at Robin Stuckey Culinary Center down in Bonita when that was a really great patio culinary center. What a great concept they had.
I can remember that they had food.
And now it's like a garage for fabulous cars for a man cave or something. I don't know. But I ended up getting a job in the school system and knowing where I was going to be on weekends and holidays. And that's, that's one of the downsides to being a private chef or a caterer. And then I have always kind of been in the door with Finemark as an on-call, like almost as a server. Whenever they needed help, I'd go in there and do that and help in the kitchen. And I never really left that, even through the whole school system. And I just loved it. I would work until 6 o'clock at night and then go there and work until 10 o'clock at night. And it was like a vacation. It was good. It was fun. So it was, after I left the school system in 2015, shortly after that, I started doing a lot more with Finemark. They were busier and able to accommodate more hours, and it was what I loved to do. And it's been about 4 years, not quite 4 years, that I've taken the executive chef position up at the Fort Myers office.
Now, before you stepped into that, how many years prior to that did they always have chefs? Because it's kind of rare to have a bank that has chefs.
It is. Well, it's been about 15 years now.
They've always had chefs for quite a while.
Yes, I think when Joe Caddy opened up the first office, he brought a chef in with him. Maybe not immediately. I understand they were in a Blockbuster building for the first section of that, but boy, have they grown miles and miles, and it's just a incredible concept for the clients.
Well, I was going to say, like, I heard about it because I cooked for someone who's a client. So what it was someone that lived at Shadowwood, so that Coconut location. So the story was I was doing a private event in the home, and then he was like, David, I got to take you one of these times to one of these lunches that we do at the Coconut. They roll out all this food and, they treat us so well. And I'm like, wait a minute. A bank has a chef, or a bank does dinners and lunches?
Isn't
I'm like,
that fun?
I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And it's really good.
Yeah.
So I was supposed to be a guest, but it never happened.
Well, definitely come and visit at least.
I mean, it sounds very interesting that they would do that. I mean, I guess it's just like a perk for people that have a high net worth and bring in big bucks.
It's, 3 of the local Finemark banks have full-time in-house executive chefs and sous chefs. I have a full-time sous chef. I'm probably, our office does more lunches and more evening events than any of the others. So we stay really busy.
So how many technically are you in control of as far as staff? How many members?
Well, I have my sous chef, who's 40-hour full-time plus, and then anybody after that, we hire staffing in.
So kind of like on-call staff.
Yeah. I have a bartender on my payroll that has always just kind of been there, and he comes when I need him, and he's exceptional.
How often do you need these extra people?
Once or twice a week. Depends on the
season. That's pretty steady.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Because you can get in with somebody, meet somebody, like them,
and
say, hey, I can give you these 2 days every week.
Right. And it's, everybody I work with on the on-call side, they have lives and jobs and other things going on. So this is just a perk, kind of like what I did when I was
And how often are they dinners? Is it mostly just lunches?
We did a dinner last night for 8.
Okay.
We did a dinner last week. I did a dinner for 91 people.
In a month, how many dinners?
Not that often.
Is it more during season, or now that we're off season, very little?
Well, it depends on what it's for. Sometimes we do client dinners that it happens to be that's when they're available. We work with a lot of physicians, a lot of doctors, and they can maybe not get there for lunch during the day. Sometimes we do breakfast with those guests or for whatever the reason. But whatever works for the client, we accommodate that. And sometimes clients can meet at dinner. Sometimes, like, we just had our 15-year anniversary dinner, which was about 91
Nice.
people. And
Nice.
so we cleared out the entire big lobby of the bank.
Was that very stressful for you?
Oh,
Or did you
incredibly
feel,
stressful.
Yeah.
I don't do dinners for 90,
That often,
you know.
right.
No, I do, you know, today we had 17 and that was a big day, but it's consistent. We do stuff like, there's times we do cocktail receptions for, you know, 50 to 125 people, depending on what it is, you know.
How does the process go as far as getting menus approved, or, hey, this is what I'm going to serve? Do they just kind of trust you, or do things have to be approved diet-wise and all these, you know what I mean? Like little details.
The best part about my job is that I get to decide what we're going to serve for the most part. Every now and then, you know, one of the bankers or somebody will go, you know, I'm really in the mood for this. I really don't want that. You know,
Okay.
Joe Caddy kind of stays out of it. It's not a micromanaged situation. There's trust. It's good. I always give them a couple of options.
Right.
You know, dinner last night, we did hogfish and I did lasagna because I've been craving lasagna for about 2 weeks and I finally just had to do it.
You got your fix.
I did, and so did they. You know, so it just depends on what we're in the mood for, what the market is accommodating, which is difficult these days, and what I happen to have in the fridge. You know, you want to be responsible with what you've already got, but...
And does it work where if you have a guest that's coming that's a vegetarian, vegan, do you know that in advance? Or sometimes you get sprung like, oh, by the way, 10 minutes from now, you need a vegan dinner really quick. Let's go.
There have been times where we were picking menus up from the table and I've gotten, I'm a celiac. I'm like, okay.
So
I can do almost anything provided I have a
need to
little
know
notice.
details.
And I think mostly it's I don't think that's ever really intentional. I think it's mostly they don't want to be a bother and they don't want to be a burden and they don't want to be difficult, so they don't say anything. But it's always much easier if we're aware in advance. Always. So I can do great things.
And how did you deal with this whole COVID back in 2020? Were you ever kind of like shut down, laid off? Tell me about that a little bit.
We were so fortunate. Our company didn't furlough anybody. They could have. I would have been the first one to go. The chefs, you know, there's no clients coming in the bank. So what cleverly they decided that we would be serving the staff every day.
Wow.
So all of our banks served the staff. And then it became, you know, we were serving anywhere between 50 and 80 people at any given time. And that's
such a nice thing.
A little lower when we were over at the original bank. Now we've got that great big bank there on College Parkway, which houses well over 100 employees. So we were busy. It was fun until it wasn't. It was kind of...
What was that time period, though, that went from, hey, we're just doing the employees to back to business where we're doing, you know,
it doesn't feel like it was that long ago, back to business.
It was really pretty just recent.
Maybe within the year. When everything opened up and we pretty much, clients would trickle in and then we would go like maybe 3 times a week feeding the staff, and then we would accommodate client lunches and still try to feed people. And there were times with the staff went without because we had client lunches and we're like, okay, you're on the back burner today. But for the most part, it was a win-win. We got to work full time. Nobody skipped a beat, and the staff got pretty lucky. They were fed like kings and queens for...
Like most businesses, I mean, like for me, it's just like right when it started, I think it was like right around March 2020, all of a sudden people just started calling or canceling. Because with my business, what they'll do is call months in advance, put a deposit down on a particular date. So I already know, like, hey, on this date, I'm going to be with this guy. This is where they're at. And then just all of a sudden, I started getting flooded with calls. We're not traveling. So sorry, we have to cancel. And I gave you know, of course they get their money back. I mean, nobody knew how to handle this thing. But some of the people were like, listen, we come every year, keep the deposit, we'll reschedule. So then what happened is I went through like maybe 2-3 weeks where it was kind of quiet. And then everybody who knew me locally, where I cooked, you know, every once in a while, they'd be like, hey, if you're not sick, no fever, you can still smell and taste, why don't you come cook for us? So I got business kind of regulars where I was just like...
And I remember your post when that was happening.
Yeah. Because my thing was I never wanted to be that chef when I know a lot of chefs did this. Hey, I'll do to-go stuff. I'll give you, and that just, for me, that just doesn't work out. Reheated food. I just never want to be that guy. If you want me to be in your house and do it right, I could do that for you.
Right.
But I never put out these posts like to go only. Let's do to go. I was blessed enough where I got a good amount of regulars that called on a regular basis. Yeah, that we still had like little events. They weren't really big because we didn't know about having big groups. We just had like maybe 6 people, maybe 8 people, and it was kind of back to business. And then eventually the rentals got back because at a little while there was like, we're not promoting travel.
Okay.
So there was like no rentals open. They weren't allowing that. But then right when they did, I got a really weird thing where people from Orlando came down. There was people from Miami coming down because their beaches were shut down.
Oh, yeah.
Bonita Beach was
especially
open.
Miami. We got flooded over here, Sanibel.
So Bonita Beach was open. So I was getting all kinds of locals that were renting those big houses on the water, and I was jamming.
Yeah.
So the pandemic actually kind of doubled my business.
That's fantastic.
Because, I did whatever we had to do. We'd wear the masks. Some of the people traveled with, like, physician assistants that would test us before we walked into the house. Yeah, we did the swab test. I did a bunch of those, wear the mask, and we got through it.
Yeah.
So, with your thing, it sounded like, you got to work regular, no shutdown, which is really a blessing.
Yeah. Oh, so much. It could have gone terribly wrong for me.
Right. Like, what would you do? Like, you have a family to feed. You got all, your bills and stuff, and it doesn't stop.
And for that, we're just incredibly grateful.
Yeah. Our governor, he was great to all of us, not shutting us down.
Right.
Because, I always felt bad. Like, I had people from, like, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, they'd be like, Chef, you have no idea what's going on. Right. You're so blessed to be able to function because where they're from, to go only, or maybe you could eat outside. And as you know, like, I don't really think you could pay your bills, like, and keep your rent going. They were saying, like, a lot of places were forced to close.
Yeah.
I had people from California that would visit, and they're like, like L.A., Beverly Hills, like, I know that area, and they're like, you wouldn't even recognize it.
Yeah.
Everything's shut down.
Well, David, when last October we went to Rhode Island, Providence. So my daughter went to culinary school in Providence.
Okay.
And I fell in love. Turns out I'm a total New England girl. Okay. Gosh.
It's beautiful.
Well, and not just that, but the foodie situation up there is just incredible.
Yeah.
And there's so many chef-owned restaurants, and that's what I think I love best about it. And we don't get a lot of that down here. There's some, and they're exceptional. A
lot of chains.
Like, I was so disappointed with Coconut Point. What an opportunity to really do the right thing. And it's, I don't go there to eat. That's all.
I think what it is the rents are too high.
Yeah.
It's just, I think you really got to be bringing them in to survive.
What a disservice that they've done to themselves because,
Yeah.
But up there, when we went back last October, it was really sad because so many of those great places were no longer. They just couldn't survive it.
Right.
And that's Rhode Island, which is really, really
seasonal,
really
too.
Shut down too.
Yeah, it could be seasonal there.
They clamped down tight. Right.
But like with the whole pandemic, I think like it kind of like made all the chefs change maybe their operations and kind of like. I know a lot of people did this thing where you could like order online, have delivery service, but like I said, I felt blessed with my thing. It never really stopped.
Right.
I just had like a small little period, maybe 2-3 weeks where it got quiet, but then it avalanched.
Boy, and when it opened up, you just went bananas.
People were shocked.
They couldn't get out of the house fast enough.
I was telling some of my clients, you need to realize I only had like 2, maybe 3 days off a month. Every single day, a different house. Or I also have those clients where I might do 7 days in a row.
Yeah.
Their whole vacation, they just want a chef coming in every day.
Yeah. Right.
But it was really weird what happened. Some states just got the raw end of the deal. And I feel sorry for the chefs that had to go through that.
Right. I know. And we were very blessed.
Yeah. I was going to ask you with like your career, did you ever have these like goals or ideas about like opening a restaurant? Did you ever have that in your head? Because my ideas changed a lot.
Yeah. You know what? I'm sure I did at some point, or at least some kind of a cafe. But man, that's hard work.
Right.
That's your own money.
Right.
That's the hard part. I feel like the position I'm in now is just a fabulous position. When you've done it all,
unique.
You've been everywhere. You've cooked for people. You've worked the weekends. You've worked the nights. You've been in the industry for decades, and this is just it's a sweet spot.
Yeah.
For a chef who's already been through all that. And I feel very, very blessed that I'm able to go into Finemark and be appreciated for what I have, what I can bring to the table, and just love what I do. And
that's awesome.
There's not a lot of stress. Well, that's not true. There's a lot of stress.
So you get the big ones.
But for the most part, I'm kind of by myself in the kitchen. I turn on the music. I do what I do and do what I can when I can. And because, tomorrow is going to be crazy busy, so you got to get it done now. It's
right,
you do what you do when you can. I don't think I ever really had big aspirations. Once I decided to drop that whole catering gig that we had, I was very happy just to kind of settle into it.
What kind of hours would you say you're working these days, or was it different for season to now? What are the hours?
We're slowing down a little bit now. We don't, but I think the Fort Myers office, more than any other, is not quite as seasonal as like the Coconut office or the Naples area where people really go up north after Easter. We have maybe a younger clientele who are here more year round or more consistently. So we maintain what we do, and I still have events coming up, and throughout the summer our marketing department will still book events with the people that we can, culinary classes, things like that. I do work evenings, and I do work the 15-hour days. And
so it's it's kind of all over the place. Like you don't have a standard,
right? If it needs to be done, we get it done. Right. And if that means that I'm there till 9 o'clock last night doing dinner for 8 after starting the day with a breakfast, for instance, it is what it is. It's the job.
If you don't mind me asking though, but are you a salaried employee or are you hourly?
I am a salaried employee.
Do you ever feel like it's a bad deal doing a salary?
I don't. I think for some people it could be a bad deal under certain situations. I don't really feel like I'm being worked too hard or taken advantage of. I don't think, there are days that I'll take a little comp time and just go, okay, I'm leaving it early today, or I'm going to take this Friday off and just go exhale somewhere.
Right.
But no, I don't think it's a bad deal for me. I can see how it could be and how it has been.
Country clubs. That's,
wouldn't do that.
See, when I first got here, I was a country club chef.
Yeah.
And then, but when I started, I was sous chef. Then I got executive chef.
Right.
And then I just figured out it's too many hours.
Yes.
It's every single holiday. You're going to even work double the hours on a holiday.
Right.
And I just felt like there was too many politics.
Right.
I just got away from it.
And that kind of corporate environment.
Corporate.
You can't make everybody happy. I think a country club would be maybe the most difficult area to work. I really do.
Yeah. But like you, though, I think we thought alike, where I was thinking the reason I did that was moving here, not knowing anybody. I did it for the steady paycheck and then also benefits. Because as you know, being a restaurant chef, you just will not find benefits. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but maybe you can find it, but it's rare.
Right.
Because, like being private with what I do, obviously I pay my own benefits.
Yes.
But it's just, that's kind of important. The older you get, you want those health benefits.
Well, exactly. Especially when you have young kids.
Right.
And you do.
Right.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. That factors into everything. And which is why I left the whole catering industry to begin with, because that was critical.
Do you have like a good story for me with catering where you felt like you were melting, that there's no way you're going to get this job done, like you're in the weeds kind of story? Like
there was one day.
Let's hear it. Okay.
There was one day, and this is probably like the worst sinking moment I think I've ever had, and it was totally my fault, and it was redeemable, so it's a good story in the end. But we were doing a board of directors meeting down at a place. Okay. And
how many guests?
Probably about 10 or 12.
Oh, so not that big.
Not a huge one.
Okay.
But I decided that day I was going to do Chilean sea bass.
Okay.
And of course there's no real kitchen, so I've got to kind of doing what I can, bringing it in hot and working out on their loading deck
Oh, so there's factors.
Oh, there's always factors. There's,
yeah.
Nothing's really that easy.
Yeah.
But this was in a business, and I turned around with my tray of Chilean sea bass, which at the time was like, I think $27 a pound. And swung it around, and about 6 of them slid off, hit that loading dock floor, and all over the place.
I've never had anything like that.
I thought I
just lost my product.
I'm going to change my name and move out of state now. It was nice knowing everybody. Good luck to you. McDonald's is right down the road. It was terrible. It was awful. And not only that, but it's just my favorite fish, and it was heartbreaking to see.
So tell me what you did. Let's hear
Well,
it.
that was one of the few times that I ordered a lot of Chilean sea bass, so I would have some for my family at home. We would cook that over the weekend. I called my husband, who happened to be home. I'm like, pop that in the oven for 10 minutes and get it up here. I'm going to stall them. And it worked out okay. Lucky. But to this day, I still don't think the gentleman who was there watched me do it. I still think he thinks I fed everybody floor bass. So, and I didn't, I promise. That went away. I would have eaten it off the floor, make no mistake. Yeah. But it was, Well,
you might think I'm crazy, but when I go into the parties, it's the exact amount. It's pretty much the exact.
And that's a
just
risky little game.
I've done it so many times, I have a lot of confidence.
And if you don't have to rely on anybody else to.
Exactly. I don't have to rely on anybody else. Nobody's going to mess up.
That's the factor.
So when I'm in these houses, I try to be super careful.
Right.
You can't overcook the steak. You only got one shot at it. But like I said, I mean, I've done it for 10 years with the house thing that I feel like pretty solid.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I totally get that.
But I'm saying, like, some people are like, you're crazy. Always bring extra. But in your case, like, God, thank God.
And I didn't live that far away, so Brian was like, all right, I'll be right there, you dingling. It was fine. But that was probably like my biggest sinking moment where I was just like, oh, man.
Jeez.
I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I was
But what about with what you're doing right now? If you know you got 12 people, is it always 12 or you always have extra right now?
Oh, no, I can pretty much bank on having a couple extras. I always make sure.
Three portions maybe?
Even like last night, our dinner was supposed to be 7. Okay. And shortly before, it was, it's 8, And I was prepared for it because that's kind of how we roll.
Yeah. See, and for me, there's no surprises.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like going into it, oh, by the way, there's another guest. That never, ever happens.
Okay, well.
What'll happen is they have time to get me in the morning. They're like, hey, text me in the morning, call me. I need to know before I get there.
Right.
Everybody seems to know that.
Yeah.
So I've never really had like a big time curveball like that.
And see, and I'm lucky enough that if that is an issue, we've got our walk-in right there. I've got everything I need. So
I miss those walk-ins.
Oh, I love my kitchen.
You know what? I've been in like 2 private homes that they had walk-ins.
Oh, nice.
I mean, keep in mind, I'm talking about houses that are roughly 40 million. Yeah. But I'm saying it's very rare to walk into a home that you walk into a walk-in. We got milk over that corner. We got beers way up there.
Because it's tens of thousands of dollars.
It's amazing.
And if I were to win the lottery and have my home, I would definitely have a walk-in because, man, the quality of the food it keeps is miles better. I love it. I
was going to ask, like, if you weren't doing this bank job, what would be your second choice if you weren't where you're at now? Where would you like to be? Or
in the food industry or just in general?
A chef. Yeah.
Gosh. I don't know, and you'll probably find out later. I would pay Harold money to let me just stand in a corner of his kitchen and watch them work because I love what he does. Yeah. I love what he does, and
he's great. I mean, he's an OG. He's been doing it.
I'd be begging him for a job.
Yeah,
like, please, you don't even have to pay me. I work for wine. Just teach me a few things and let me hang out. I could watch that kind of stuff for days.
Yeah, he's very talented for sure.
Yeah. And we've got great talent in this area. We really do.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of great chefs, and we're going to have many features, and I hope we can get you back for next time. We're going to have another session. We'll do season 2.
I love it. This is fun.
But I appreciate you coming on. I was just going to ask if you want to plug anything, or maybe you have a website where people could see your stuff.
I really don't. Finemark Bank does have a website, and there is a chef's corner in there where they've got all the recipes and all of they feature our recipes quite often between the 3 chefs,
so
and that's fun. So there's a whole
to learn about your cooking there.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool
stuff. We do a lot of culinary classes. which is really fun because we get to pull other people in. And when I do that, I really like to plug and promote our local smaller businesses, like our farmers or our mushroom farm. Like we just did a class with Stropharia Mushroom Farm.
Okay.
Jarrell and his brother down in Naples. And man, knocked my socks off. I didn't even have to do anything except for put the food down, and he was just in his element. He's good at what he does, and he is just a wealth of knowledge on the benefits of mushrooms, and it was one of my favorite things to do. So
that's awesome.
Stuff like that. I think sourcing where we get our stuff, and that's important. That's half the battle, and that's really important. And helping smaller businesses and being able to connect our clients with these smaller businesses, like smaller wine shops, quality cheese with Carolyn Hostetler, who I just adore. Cool. So many things like that.
That's awesome.
It's probably my favorite thing about what we do is kind of sourcing and getting to know these great, great people who are doing it for all the right reasons.
Sure. Well, I look forward to watching more of your career. I mean, we met on Facebook. I'm watching your events, and
I feel like I know
you're taking photos. Yeah, I mean, I like your work and what you do. It looks awesome.
I have people who literally make fun of me. Like, really, you can
There's
look
no
at her.
Time
it's
for
for
the
my
perfect
mom.
lighting.
It's for my mom. She can see what I did today, you know, and I love that. We talk about it. So.
Well, I have a little gift for you.
I love a gift.
So you can wear this when you're cleaning house or cutting the grass or whatever, but that's our little podcast shirt.
Chefs and Lambos.
You could hold that up for the camera there. You could show everybody.
I happen to look great in red, by the
cool?
way. I love it.
Well, thanks for
that's
coming
so
on.
Cool.
And I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing more of your stuff.
I love what you're doing here, David. It was a pleasure to meet you officially.
I'm just trying to help all the chefs out. I'm going to see more chefs, and I hope we keep going.
That's great.
All right,
Thank
you have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.